If you guys are fans of Fishful Thinker, you know we almost always tip our braid with a jerk bait or any kind of a bait with trebles on it, or in a really clear water situation like we're dealing with here, with some sort of fluorocarbon. So let's step down and look at this stuff. It's trying 100% fluorocarbon. It's been out a while.
Correct.
I love this stuff. This stuff, we've been fishing this forever. It's great stuff. Give us a rundown on what we need to know about fluorocarbon, what makes this stuff as good as it is. And
Sure. First of all, let's talk about fluorocarbon. Everything Berkley makes is 100% fluorocarbon. There's some competition out there that doesn't have it. They've got it fluoro-coated.
They mix
it. And they're able to mix it and do some things, but they're not really telling you the 100% truth. The really cool thing about fluorocarbon is that it sinks.
Right.
It has, it's very, very clear. So we've done some tests in the lab that say that fish can't see it, and that's one of the things with fluorocarbon that people have talked about is one of the reasons they like it. But with respect to a bass angler, fluorocarbons have had a tendency to be quite stiff, so you'd want to put them on a casting reel.
Right.
Okay, now we have other products that we've made more manageable, but this one specifically, great on a casting reel.
Yep.
It's going to have the perfect diameter to fit a casting reel. You know, we can either take a little bit away for spinning, we can either add a little bit diameter for casting, and the nice thing is this is a direct line with the fish. That's why the bass anglers really love it.
What he means is that it sinks, and we've been fishing this for a long time, so I'm real familiar with it. It sinks, so it keeps a straight line to your jig or whatever. It doesn't sit on the surface and then fall off to your bait. It sinks, so you're straight to it. So you guys know, like our Gulp minnows and our little finesse jigs, a lot of times I throw them on fluorocarbon. The XL version, which is a spinning reel version of this, it's a little more supple, maybe not quite as strong overall, but it's easier to handle on a spinning reel. But the reason I like it is it sinks and goes straight to my jig, so I know I have a straight line deal with my jig as opposed to line floating on the surface and then sinking from there.
So here's one thing that we should talk about is stretch.
Okay.
When you take monofilament, it stretches right away. You can take it, you can stretch it in your hand, and you can see it. Conversely, you have braid. It doesn't stretch at all. No, you can try it, you'll rip your hands up, right?
Yeah.
Fluorocarbon will stretch, but only after a certain amount of force has been. That's why people believe and know, because of the stretch dynamics, is that because it stretches differently, it's more sensitive right away. When you set the hook and that fish starts to run, then it'll start to give. But from an angler's perspective, with the bite and catching a fish, there's little stretches compared to mono. That's why people love Triline 100%.
And when you're running crankbaits with this, I don't need the straight line. The force of the bait will do that, but the hook sets are cleaner with this, but not so little stretch as this where you might pull it away from fish. That's going to give you enough stretch to get them tight. Feels really good with the crankbait. Abrasion resistance. Tell us about abrasion resistance with fluorocarbon.
Abrasion resistance is, it depends on the formula. Triline 100% is pretty darn abrasion resistant, as you guys know. It depends on how you're formulating it. The way they talk about abrasion resistance with respect to fluorocarbon is it harder, is it soft, The harder it is, the stiffer it's going to be. The stiffer it's going to be, the more abrasion it is. So this is kind of like in between. This isn't just a leader material that you use in salt water.
Which you sell separately, which we do. Pro-Spec leader, which is very stiff and fantastic leader material.
Exactly. So this is great on abrasion resistance, great for bass fishing. We do make, like I said, we make a lot of other fluorocarbons that are meant to be more manageable, but if you know how to use a drag, then you get the best of both worlds. But yeah, this is fantastic on a casting reel. Yeah,
and we've gone through miles of this stuff, guys, and of course you guys make all kinds of stuff. You make Vanish, you make this, you make the Berkley Solutions, which is basically a kind of an intro braid, intro fluorocarbon, intro
100% fluorocarbon.
Yeah, and so if guys say, well, it's expensive, I don't want to try it. Well, it gives you a chance to kind of get a feel for the characteristics of it without necessarily spending a bunch of money on a really high-end fluorocarbon that will pay for itself. But you might not, until you get a feel for fluorocarbon, you might not realize all that. So it's great stuff. On your website, berkley-fishing.com, do you have breakdowns of the various lines really good?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have all that information on there. I think you do a great job, Chad, of applying the application of what we're doing. If I'm using braid, I would probably go with a medium action rod. There's got to be a little give, to your point. You don't want to rip it out of his mouth. If I'm fishing mono, I'm probably fishing medium heavy, and probably even something like a fluorocarbon because there is some stretch
more hook set.
But I think it's just something important to talk about.
Well, yeah, even my heavy powered flipping sticks, I've got some big heavy powered flipping sticks, but they're moderate fast. So that when I set the hook on 50 or 65 pound braid at 12 feet out, my rod's going to give me some, but it's still a very powerful rod once the tip bends and absorbs the initial shock. So yeah, it's a total package. Now we preach always here on Fishful Thinker, you pick the lure, then you pick the line, then you pick the rod, then you pick the reel. And that's how it always starts with the lure first, and that's how we choose our whole selection of stuff. So, and I have a full complement in the boat. We've done Nanofill a lot over the years. We did the various trilene braids over the years. We've tried all of it. At this point, I've settled on these. At least since July, I've been fishing them all across the board on all different stuff with great success. This we've been fishing for several years now. And people have seen that a bunch in our show. Chris, I appreciate it very much. You guys also, on an upcoming episode, or possibly even this show of Fishful Thinker Television, you'll see how some of these items are made as well, which is a really cool deal. That's a whole nother, another video. But cool stuff, guys. Check them out. X9, X5, try 100% fluorocarbon. You see tons of it in our boat, and it will catch you more fish as well. So thank you guys for watching.